All right, let's dive right into this. Imagine a scenario that pretty much every analyst dreads. You're staring at a data set, and at first glance, it is perfectly full. I mean, there's absolutely no blank cells. Every single row, every single column is just packed with data. But here's the catch. It remains entirely unusable to you. Why? Well, because the values might be completely outdated, or maybe the definitions of those columns have actually changed since the data was first collected. Or worse, the population it represents simply doesn't match the critical business decision you were trying to make right now. It's a super frustrating situation, but honestly, it happens all the time. We so often confuse a full data set with a good data set. But having data is really only half the battle. If that data doesn't align with reality or with your specific goal, it's practically useless.
And that brings us to a really fundamental question. What actually makes data fit for a particular analytical or AI purpose? In this explainer, we're going to build out a highly practical mental model for understanding exactly that. By the time we wrap up, you'll be able to clearly explain the central idea of data quality, follow the exact process for ensuring it, and recognize precisely where your models and results require a bit of caution. Because let's face it, in this crazy age of artificial intelligence and complex analytics, your output is literally only ever going to be as reliable as your input. So let's start with a core definition. Data quality is not just some single static score stored somewhere inside a dataset. You can't just, run a quick script and get an absolute grade of A+. Instead, I want you to think of it as a relationship. It's a living relationship between the data, its provenance, and its intended use. More formally, data quality is defined as fitness for use across a variety of specific dimensions. We're talking about accuracy, completeness, consistency, timeliness, validity, uniqueness, and representativeness. Each one of these dimensions plays a totally distinct role in deciding whether a dataset is actually going to help you solve your problem or just lead you down a blind alley.
Now, what's really interesting here is how breaking this down into these specific dimensions actually helps us out. The important thing isn't just memorizing all those labels. By keeping these dimensions separate, we turn quality from an abstract, fuzzy buzzword into a rigorous, examinable system. We can track exactly what information enters our process, what operation changes or organizes it, and what kind of output comes back out. It takes the abstract and makes it highly practical and measurable. Think about it. If you just say, this data is bad, you have no idea how to fix it. But if you know it's, say, complete but not timely, well, now you know exactly where to focus your engineering efforts.
Okay, so how does this build into an actual working mechanism? The process generally flows through 4 essential stages. First up, use case. You have to strictly define what the use case is and determine your acceptable level of error. You just can't evaluate data in a vacuum. Second is profile. This is where you really get into the weeds, profiling the values, the data types, ranges, duplicates, and missingness. Third, verify. Here you compare meanings and collection procedures across different sources and across time. And finally, monitor. You correct what can safely be corrected, document any residual limitations, and then you monitor that data over time for drift. Taken all together, these 4 stages seamlessly connect your starting information to your final result, establishing a really clear path of trust.
Let's bring this down to earth with a concrete illustrative example. Imagine a customer table where every single postal code field is filled in. It looks fantastic at first glance. But when we actually profile this table, we reveal a bit of a mess. One entry uses a standard 5 digits, another uses a 9-digit format, and several others actually belong to previous, entirely outdated addresses for those customers. So just glancing at that raw row count, it gave us a totally false sense of security.
The absolutely crucial point here is that while the completeness of this dataset is super high, like there are 0 blanks, its validity and timeliness are definitely not. If you just applied some standard formatting rules to force everything into 5 digits, well, that standardization alone couldn't magically determine the customer's correct current address. It might make the data look nice and uniform, but it definitely wouldn't make it accurate. Each quality dimension answers a fundamentally different question. Passing just one single dimensions check absolutely does not certify the dataset as a whole.
So why does all this matter? Because it proves exactly why you need a rigorous data quality plan before you ever start modeling. A highly useful decision rule to keep in your back pocket is this. Match your method to the question, the available data, and the cost of error. You should never, ever choose an analytical technique just because it's popular right now or technically sophisticated. You always have to ask, are the inputs appropriate? Does the output actually answer the real question? And, critically, how will its performance be checked against the real-world cost of getting it wrong? I mean, a minor error in a marketing campaign might be okay, but that exact same error in a medical diagnostic model, that could be catastrophic.
And this brings us to a critical boundary we really need to set regarding data cleaning. There is a huge, very common misconception out there that simply cleaning data can somehow make any data set trustworthy. It's so tempting to think a few automated scripts can just salvage anything. But the much more accurate view is this. Cleaning can repair detectable problems, but it cannot recreate unobserved cases, meaning data that was never collected in the first place, it's gone. Nor can cleaning guarantee that the measurements actually mean what the analysts assume they mean. If you completely missed a crucial demographic during collection, no amount of standardizing your column headers is going to bring that missing demographic back into existence.
Actually, that brings up an important limitation to keep in mind. Quality thresholds heavily depend on context. Making forceful corrections to your data can actually introduce brand new errors, or it might accidentally erase meaningful variation in the dataset that you actually wanted to study in the first place. For instance, an extreme outlier might look like a simple typo, but it could actually represent a highly valuable, rare event. Now, this doesn't make data cleaning useless, for sure. Rather, it dictates exactly when a computational result deserves your confidence and when it requires additional evidence, testing, or just plain human judgment to verify.
Okay, let's do a quick structural recap to really cement these ideas. What is it? Data quality is fitness for use across dimensions like accuracy, completeness, and validity. How does it work? It moves through a rigorous process of defining a use case, profiling the data, verifying it, and monitoring it over time. And when does it matter? You must use a data quality plan before modeling, with rules strictly tied to real-world decisions. Honestly, don't wait until the model is already built to realize your foundation was built on sand.
Just always keep that boundary in view. Quality thresholds depend on context, and corrections can introduce new errors or erase meaningful variation. That is what data quality is, how it works, and why it fundamentally matters to your analysis. And that wraps up this explainer on Data Science Bytes, complex ideas made clear. But before you go, think about your own current projects for a second. If you audited your single most important data set right now, which of these quality dimensions would fail first? Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.